And we're grooving. First time in the new studio setup for a solo pod. So we got the all black background buzzing. We got some of the movement. I gotta make some sage here. Just hold on a second with me. It feels good to be in a studio. I like it. I think it more so just feels good to get a little of that smoke. Yeah, it feels good. A couple of people were saying the other day when they smelt the smoke, a little bit of the sage coming out of the studio post-podcast, they were talking about how do we get more of that throughout the MASH facility. Again, I'm at MASH facility, MASH campus here in Savage, Minnesota. Spending the summer here. I've spent a lot of time in Minnesota over the years. I was with Glenn Auerbach, who is the founder of Sauna Times, Papa Glenn. That's what I like to call him. Took Tyler Beatty, who would be on one of the episodes, took him with me, and we went over and saunaed with him yesterday. To me, that's when I'm back home in Minnesota. I really do. I think Minnesota has become, in so many ways, it has become home for me. And I would have, I just would have never thought that, but it's been like that for so many years that it's just interesting how that worked out. It feels so familiar now. But one of the things that feels familiar to me when I'm in Minnesota is sauning. And Glenn has one of the best setups. You know, the thing that he talked about that was really, that we talk about a lot when I'm with them, but the thing that really stood out to me yesterday being back home was the spirit of a sauna. And, you know, he had built his sauna in 2003, so 22 years. And there's no way that that thing is in any urgency of not continuing to be successful for him. He's not going to have any issues with that. And so, I mean, 20 plus years of one sauna, and it looks like it's got another 20 in it easy. It just goes to show the quality of certain things. Obviously, it's a custom build. He built that by hand. He's got a Kuma stove in it, which I think is the best stove in the country. Kuma stove is built out of northern Minnesota. And it sounds like what he's told me that they're getting ready to start doing electric, and they're going to have electric saunas. But it's all been wood burning. And that's the way I grew up saunaing here in Minnesota, was on a wood burning sauna. It's the way I like it. But I took BD over there, we saunaed, and just the thing that I enjoy about wood burning saunas over everything else is the fact that I agree with Glenn, it ends up having its own spirit to it. It has its own essence, its own soul to the fire. And you make the fire, right? Which is what makes it so powerful and beautiful to have a wood-burning sauna, wood-burning stove, is that essentially you have to work the stove. You have to oxygenate it. You have to fill it with wood. You have to make sure that you're moving the heat around, and you just have access to all the attributes of it. And then the way in which you steam really matters. You know, something that really stands out to me often with saunas is the amount of rocks. A lot of times you don't need a ton of rocks. I like to have all the rocks cover the entire stove at least. But you need to be able to steam rocks. And when you can steam rocks, anyone who's had a real sauna before, experience knows what I'm talking about. The steam sort of works its way around your body. It kind of covers you with a blanket. And it's stressful, but magical at the same time. It's both stressful and painful and beautiful. So it's really interesting how powerful that steam is and how much that steam is needed. They have a wood-burning sauna here at MASH. Jake Schmitz built it. And there's wood-burning saunas all over the place if you're in Minnesota, especially if you're in the community. You start to learn, you start to realize and feel out just kind of all the cultures. I've Banya, Dan, he runs Banya, it might just be Banya Sauna down in Prior Lake, Minnesota. He was my first ever Venic experience where they hit you with the leaves, and it's more of a Russian style sauna. I really enjoy that process as well, and he's got a lot of really cool things. He'll heat up the hot tubs and the cold tubs. He uses all natural born fire heat, and he's really created an infrastructure all by hand down in Prior Lake. But I'll see a lot of these guys up at Sauna Days. I'm going to Sauna Days May 2nd to May 4th up in Larsmount. It's north of Duluth, right on Lake Superior. So we'll do, I think there's 12 to 15 saunas that will be there. I would imagine they're all going to be wood burning. I would imagine most of them, if not all of them, are mobile. So companies will bring their saunas in. Glenn was telling me, I think he runs the thing. I'll speak at it a little bit. I got a couple of podium and fireside chats that I'll have, but it sounds like there is about 200 people coming. So that'll be cool to just sauna and jump in Lake Superior and sort of get into that vibe. Will be a lot of fun. But anyway, so today the topic that I wanted to talk about, something that is coming back to me, if you've followed previous podcasts, have been in the art of something. I've had the art of something. I had that little art of something mini series, and I've toyed around with the concept art of something for a few years now, and it keeps coming back to me. I don't know what that is necessarily, but one of the things that's coming back to me now are these workshops and the ability to build a community. And what do you call community? I've never been into names necessarily, but I understand their importance. I understand the importance of names and the branding and what that stands for. And so I think what's odd of where I come into the art of something is that after all these years, not all these years, 2.5, 3 years of the art of something just sort of lingering, it started to make sense to me the way in which I could start to explain and articulate content. And I think a lot of that is coming to me because I'm back home in Minnesota and I'm around a lot of these creators, someone like Glenn, Tyler Beatty, who's up here for the summer. He runs a place called the Lion's Den down in Houston, Texas. And you're around a lot of these creators now, and a lot of these creators who are into the artistic side of things. To me, I believe Glenn is an artist in sauna culture. He's not really out there commercializing saunas and rinse and repeating a thing. He's very custom. He helps build custom designs. Just came out with a book. I think it's called Sauna Build. I posted it the other day. But going back to the point, when you're with him, he talks about sauna in a way different way than anybody else. People at MASH here, they're very much so artists, even though they teach youth sports and primarily youth baseball and youth softball. They obviously go into college and professional sports as well. I think that's sort of their base, is that youth baseball and softball. But they're all artists to the way in which they go about their teaching. It's a 13-year program. I mean, I've been a part of 3 buildings with them. They've just continued to elevate and scale, and I think a lot of that is because of their art. And so where I'm going with art is in the aspect that when you're an artist, you're not compared to other people because you can't be. So it's a line I often say to people that I work with, is that in general, in theory, you yourself are the best at what you do. You're the best in the world at what you do. And saying that to people can come off rather arrogant at the surface, but at the depth, it's actually the most humble thing. I think one of the most humble things that you could own about yourself is being able to comfortably understand that you are the best in the world at what you do. And at the surface, like I said, egotistically, the arrogance of that miscalculates what I mean by that. Because if you are connected to the essence of yourself, the artistic side of yourself, and the way in which you do something, which I'll bring this together, the way in which you do something through an artistic way, there can't be a comparable, there can't be a comparison, there can't be somebody else who does it your way. And so to double down on intuition, on what your craft is or what you share and supply with the world, it is vulnerable and scary, but it's courageous and empowering. And I think that the holding both of those and being able to continuously make your own art into something that you produce and share with people. And this can be in a commerce entrepreneurial side way, but it can also be in sports. It can be in businesses. It can be in any of your crafts. The way in which you individually bring your own art to the table and double down on that, you make yourself in your own lane. You put yourself in your own department, your own world. And that's what, to me, the art of something becomes about. Because if you've listened to me, you know that I'm obsessed with the metaphysical principle of taking nothing to something, and that being a metaphysical expansion, right? So when I have nothing, We'll talk about this in a sense of an idea. Where do ideas come from? Ideas are driven by source energy. So ideas come to us. We don't necessarily go out and get an idea. We can go and get ideas, but that means that it's already available, right? So if I go and use Chat GPT or even somebody in a business meeting or I'm reading a book, that definitely forms a lot of our art and our ideas, and we can use a lot of that, but we're going and getting the idea. When ideas come through us and work through us, there's a source of nothingness that works its way through us. We become the beacon for something. So we turn the nothing into something. That's metaphysical. And in a lot of ways, this can be categorized as the concept of 0 to 1. So taking something from 0 to 1. That's a business term a lot, right? It's how do you MASH is a good example. At one point, MASH didn't exist. There were no clients, there were no baseballs and bats. Then there was a idea, and there was a mind, and there was people. But at one point, it was nothing. So to take something from nothing, turn it into something, that's the process of metaphysics, right? And in business side, it's just 0 to 1. You start out 0, you made it into 1, you turn it into something. And so for me, the art of something, the way that the words are starting to talk to me now than they were years prior, is that the word art, so the art is the essence of something. So that's the spirit of ego, right? So your ego is something. You are something materially made. So you are a character, an identity, a personality. You are a job. You are a result. We'll put it that way. You are a result. So that's in the category of somethingness. You are something. Everything is something. In sports, whoever wins the game or loses the game is something. Something's going to happen. So it's a result, right? The art, which is, again, fascinating to me, that's coming to me now. The art before something is nothingness. So it could almost be the nothingness of something, right? Or the nothing of something. But I'm using the word art based off of the fact that I've had the art of something for a few years now. Art is more of that category of nothingness, obviously, but that's more spiritual. That's your essence. That's your intuition. This is these feelings, these gut feelings that we have, and this connection that we have. And how they work off each other is they need each other. So in order for us to experience anything, we have to experience nothingness as well, right? I often say this, and the soul being nothing, the soul wants the experience of ego being something, and the ego being something wants the experience of the soul, which is nothing. So in order for something to exist, nothing needs to exist, and in order for nothing to exist, something needs to exist, which I think is that's the great paradox. That's the great duality. And what I'm starting to understand is how do you categorize the two into the art of something. And that's where I'm finding a community growth or an ability here, specifically in Minnesota, as I'm back here, of a lot of creators, a lot of artists who have something, right? And so now all of a sudden, what happens when you can take that lens into any craft that you see, you start to see individuality inside, we'll call it large scale realities or just realities. Let's just call it realities, meaning a physical therapist is a curriculum. There's a lot of PTs in the world, but not everybody can be the same. You can't be the curriculum. So we have something that is taught in schools or your degrees or your education that teaches you the anatomy, right? Or the processes of how to create protocols for, we'll say, recovery or prehab, right? Keeping somebody from getting injured. And you have all these protocols that I would imagine most PTs can speak the same language of that across the country. But that's something that's tangible. PT, physical therapy, the protocols, the objectiveness, that is all practical, tangible, result-oriented things that we can find through research, data, analytics, literature, you name it. On the other side, what is the individual that plays the role of the physical therapist? And that's all individuality. Those are the artists. And I think that's always been unique to me of how does someone who does the same thing, how is someone better or worse? And I don't know if in the artistic side that can be obviously that is a form of aesthetics, which is a philosophy, right? We have a philosophy of aesthetics, so we do judge what is good and bad art. And it has to, I would imagine it has to be a subjective truth. So you have to have a subjective truth to who is a good or bad PT, physical therapist. And the subjectiveness of the artist, it really comes into, if I'm thinking through this correctly, in order to be the best artist, to have the best art in something that exists, you would ideally be so much of yourself. You'd bring so much of yourself to it, your uniqueness to it, your own expression to it, that's how you would, I don't want to say change the game like like it needs to be changed, but I think that's your separator. I think that's the separation of comparison to anything else. And uniquely, maybe we need all that. Maybe we need to challenge each other and compete against each other to become more of who we are individually. I think that's what happens a lot in sports, in any aspect, right? Is ultimately you need an opponent to compete against so that you can judge yourself of something materially. And your ego has something to have results driven from it, win or loss. But the finale of sport, the transcending of sport, is to compete against nobody and realize it's been you versus you the entire time. And I think that takes a career to get there. I think that we have stints of it when we're growing up in sports where we become close to acknowledging that, becoming aware of that. But the lesson of that from sport is what I think transcends into all of our lives, right? So I, right now, as a business owner or a podcast host or a teacher, whatever that is, it's always categorized under something. There's tremendous amount of podcasters out there. There's tons of coaches and teachers out there. But then what is the art that I bring to this field? What is the art that I have? The only thing that can be artistic has to be me. And what makes it a higher, we'll call it intuitive sense, is that the essence of me egotistically plays in a higher field. It's beyond. It's like nature. Nature's beyond us. That's why we feel a certain way. That's why we get ideas in nature, because source works through us. There's nothingness in nature. It's not good or bad. It just is, right? And so then what makes life so fascinating is that we know, I would imagine we know what I'm saying to be true, being that we are spirit, we are source, we are energy, which is art. We are ourselves art. I am the artist of my life. I create the life. But in order to create art or make art, it has to be in reality tangible. So it has to be good or bad. It has to be result driven in reality in order for me to even make art in the first place or be art in the first place. So in order to have creation, we have to have duality. In order to have duality, we have to have creation. And it's so frustrating to me regularly to try to win that. It's not frustrating to accept that. And I think that's sort of when I start coming to a conclusion of today's thought. That's where I think the art of something is a benefit for us to experience things in community where we're allowed to accept the paradox of the human experience and accept the duality that exists in our ego while also allowing nothingness to help us create and be curious and live intuitively. So that's what I've been working on a lot lately. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about that, or just what you're thinking about that, thinking about your life, right? In any aspect of your life, what you're doing right now, viewing it rationally as a character, viewing anything that you're doing as a character, and realizing how much more you are than the character. Coach Hank, I think that's back-to-back podcast days that I've been able to wave at Coach Hank when he walks by. But realizing that you're beyond the character that you play, and then you'd have to accept the nothingness of what that beyond is, right? And that you live in this creative unknown state and you turn it into something. And that's what I'm going to be working on over the next couple months with this workshop, and creating a community around that with you guys. Is how do we express the artistic version of ourselves? Does it need to be articulated? Is it formed in our acts? Is it formed in our curriculums or our extracurricular, sorry, our hobbies? And what is the meaning behind the characters we're playing? What is the meaning behind the past? What's the meaning of being a physical therapist? And why would I want to be intrigued by my own artistic expression in that? Because a lot of times, I've said this in the past, but I think so often we don't view everything as art unless it's literally in the umbrella of artists, like writers or musicians and even athletes or entertainers. But if we can view everything that we do as art, that we are the art and we play a character, what is the art that we bring to our own individual characters? What is the artistic view or artistic paintbrush, metaphorically, that you bring to being a dad that makes you different and makes you authentically yourself as a father, right? Which can be intimidating because there's a lot of responsibility as a father, but there's an artistic side to it. Are you supposed to conform and do what the generations ahead of you have done, or what everybody else tells you to do, or what people perceive fatherhood like? Or are you supposed to bring an artistic expression to it and think intuitively for yourself of what responsibility of like that magnitude means to you? Is there an artistic expression to being a husband? Is there an artistic expression to being a friend? Is there an artistic expression going back to being a physical therapist, being a sauna enthusiast, being any of these things? It's good thinking, powerful thinking. Didn't know we were going to go there, but this morning I got up and I was working on the art of something, and that was where I went. Anyways, great to be in the Black Lab, the studio. I hope you guys are enjoying some of these shows in here with a little bit different vibe. Think a little bit different. It's a little bit darker, but it's powerful. All right, cheers. Enjoy the day.